It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program, TRAJAN Wealth, for all your trusted local needs in retirement. It's TrajanWealth.com. This Utah Mammoth team, of course, started off the season with a 7-game win streak after a couple of losses, and then they suddenly were leading the tables in the West, and now at 9-7, everybody's wondering what's going on with this team who had a really rough go, JJ, up in Canada as they hit the road. They're not scoring not just as many goals as the other team. They're giving up a ton of goals, and they're doing it late. And I don't know if it's a function of, obviously Veggie's one of the best goaltenders in the league, or at least he started off the season that way. They signed him up to a big, contract last season, and they've had a hard time. And not only that, the top 6 have disappeared from this team, who have been, you talk about the guys who you're anticipating to be massive goal scorers for this team, and right now they're not getting a lot of production out of their top 2 lines, and that's a tough thing to have because you've got a bunch of young guys that everybody's expecting a lot out of, and you're paying them a lot of money, and you're signing them up long term. And right now this team is kind of reeling, wondering what they're doing after a really quick start. They are suddenly right there in the middle of the tables and really underperforming compared to some of the teams in the West.
Is it time to panic?
Nah.
I don't think so.
Nah.
It's a rough patch. There's ebbs and flows in a hockey season. We've seen it already one season following this team in the NHL. I think they'll be fine, but there are obviously some issues, and Cole will give us some more insight and answer the question whether or not fans should panic.
Yeah, Cole Bagley, Utah Mammoth insider for KSLSports.com. Good to be home with this team coming back to Delta Center, I would assume, after a couple of rough ones up there in the great land to the north of us, Canada. The road trip, what did we learn about this team? They didn't just lose some of these games. They lost big after they started off quickly and scored usually first in these games. Cole, what are you diagnosing this team with right now?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. First of all, I think it's a demonstration that this team is still developing, right? Mm-hmm. Not that I think that they can use the excuse that they're still super young, because I think they're like the 20th youngest team in the NHL after this offseason where they added, some more veteran players. But they're at their core, they are still very young, especially with guys like Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther. But I think what they learned about themselves is, hey, like, we're a good team. We can play with anybody, but we have not been able to master how to beat the top level talent in the NHL, right? They go to Edmonton, it doesn't go well. They go to Toronto, it doesn't go well. So I think that's normal. But dissecting it a little bit further, the key issue, I think there's 2 key issues that have been going on over the last 6 games. First of all, goaltending. They were at 91% in terms of their save percentage during that 7-game win streak, which wasn't like incredible, but it was good enough to help them put them in a position to win games every single night, which they did. Whereas during these last 6, that save percentage has dropped to 80%. You're not going to win almost any hockey games if your goaltenders are only stopping 8 out of 10 shots, because if they're putting 30 on you, that's going to end up being 6 goals, and that's what they've given up several times. So the goaltending has been an issue, and it's kind of ironic because they're actually one of the best teams in the NHL in terms of limiting not only shots but grade A scoring chances. They're 6th in the NHL in shots allowed per game. And so it feels just a little bit like puck luck. And on the other end, they've outshot their opponents over the last 6 games by about 25 shots collectively, and about an average of 4 or 5 a night. Again, they're just not really getting good bounces. The top 6 forwards have gone kind of gone quiet. That kid line, which has been changed around a little bit over the last couple of games. Cooley hasn't scored since he signed his big extension. Gunther's had 1 goal, but it was in garbage time, and Peterka's gone pretty quiet. So it's the next phase of growth, right? Like, they're not an overly young team. This isn't year 1, year 2, year 3 of a real rebuild. This is year 5, where they're really trying to still learn what it takes to be consistently good and give your A game every single night. So I don't think we're at a panic level yet, but if they lose 3 or 4 of their next 5, yeah, we may be approaching a little bit of a panic.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because this current spell they've been on, a little bit of a rough patch, has dropped them from second or third in the West all the way down to out of the wild card mix that quickly. It doesn't take long, and we're learning that as we follow the NHL more closely. You can't have long, rough patches because there's so much parity in this league. Very few teams are having those long patches. How important is it that they avoid another long losing streak, and what kind of damage could that do to their playoff chances? And on the other side of it, you're seeing some really good teams that are on the outside looking in as well. Yeah,
I'd say the NHL probably has the most parity of any of the big 4 sports, and it's arguably the most unforgiving. You can have teams that go on hot streaks that win 7, 8, 9 games, but then, maybe they go through a month or two where they're only winning 30 or 40% of their games, and it just sets them back. And, when they were in Buffalo, I reported that was a must-win situation, and some guy on X called me a clown for it. But those are like
it was JJ, by the way. JJ,
yeah, that was JJ.
That was my other account.
Burner.
I got a lot of burners.
But it's true. Like, no, these are not must-wins to make the playoffs tomorrow. But you cannot lose 3 or 4 games in a row. You cannot have those streaks because at the end of the day, if you do that, 10 times, right? Like, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's why, you have to limit your losses. You really can't go more than 2 or 3 in a row because then it's hard to kind of right the ship because then, your confidence starts to dip, which starts from the top down. If your confidence in net is bad, then your confidence in front of you is bad. And then so on and so forth up through the forwards and everything. So yeah, every game is important. Every period is important, every shift. And, I talked with a couple of the guys yesterday. I talked with Mikhail Sergachev. I talked with Clayton Keller. And, of course, they're going to say all the right things. But, what Sergachev pointed out was, look, like what's promising is that we are still limiting teams, in terms of their shots. We are also outshooting our opponents. And so, if we can get a little bit more puck luck and if we can just stay the course, like these are fixable things. Which, to quote him, says, look, that's why it's promising, is we know we're a good team. Yeah, we're having a rough stretch, but these aren't like major issues. The effort's there. The production is there in terms of getting chances on net. They just need a few more to go in, on their end and a couple less to go in against them.
So they've lost 3 in a row. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games. And the team they're playing tonight is the Buffalo Sabres. Is this game against the Sabres also a must-win?
Yeah, and that guy can call me a clown again. I don't remember what his name was, but I guess if that's you, I guess we'll see if your burner ends up with the clown emoji.
You'll be hearing from me later.
Yeah, it was Jeremiah Benson, very different guy.
Yeah, there we go. I would say it's a must-win. You got to right the ship here. You cannot drop 4 in a row. You cannot lose 6 of 7. And the schedule lightens up, right? They've been on the road for, I think they played 15 games. They've been on the road for like 11 of those. So now they're at home for the next 6 of the next 8. And as well, their strength of schedule softens up too. I think they've had one of the top 6 or 7 toughest schedules, and now it softens up to like the 27th toughest schedule moving forward. So it eases up. You have a chance to get back to winning ways. And to do it at home, right? And I think that's an opportunity to help the goaltenders. The goaltenders, especially if Vamelka seems to just feed off the energy at Delta Center, and he loves to hear his name chanted. Like this is a chance to get right, to improve that save percentage, to see some goals go in, to feed off the crowd, and to get back to winning ways. Because the positive thing here, they're still 9-7. I peg this team to be fighting for a wild card spot down the stretch. I don't think that they're a team that's going to be top 3 in division from Thanksgiving forward, and I also don't think that they're a team that should be out of the playoff race at any point. But it's going to be tough. So you got to figure it out now and get back to winning. Cause like I said earlier, you're playing with fire here. If you lose 2 or 3 more, here of the next 4 or 5, we're approaching dangerous territory.
Especially when you're playing the Islanders and the Sharks and the Sabres, right? I agree with you.
Cole, how do you get these young lines fired back up again and get them I think everybody looks at those top 6 and goes, what's going on with these first 2 lines? Hot shot, young goal scorers. How do in the NHL, how do you kind of fire back up again some of that chemistry and get these guys going? And in some cases, they haven't really had the full chemistry going yet this year.
It's interesting. I'd have to disagree a little bit with switching up the lines because, 2 weeks ago, the first and second line were both top 6 lines in the NHL in terms of, statistically. The kid line had 34 points in 11 games. They were averaging, 3.5 points a night. And then the top line, of course, Nick Schmaltz was not going to be a guy that's leading the league in points for an entire year. But that line was, I believe, number 6 statistically across the board. And then the kid line for a while was number 2 in a lot of key areas. And so it's been interesting to see them abandon that so quickly. If you ask me, I think it was a little bit of a mistake. I think that kid line is going to be, one of your premier lines for the next 7 or 8 years. Those are guys that should be playing together. When you watch them 2 weeks ago, they were just completely dissecting opposing defenses with their speed and with their finesse. And then, they go through a little bit of a cold streak. Again, they're Cooley's 21, Gunther's 21, almost 22, JJ Peterka's 23. Like, there's going to be notable cold stretches. And so in terms of getting them fired up, they just need to see the puck go in the net. They need their confidence back. They need to start winning. I don't know what that looks like on the other end. I don't know how, as a coach, you really get them fired up, but I think it just comes back to confidence and seeing it go in. And I think it comes back to your leadership group. I talked to Keller yesterday, and he said that he likes to play with fire. He with the fire in his belly. He likes to play a little bit pissed off, and he kind of laughed it off. But no, these guys need to play the chip on their shoulder. If they're serious about making the playoffs, they need to prove it now.
Cole, one of the things that we've also seen with this team, they start off tonight. They're at home, and I know that they kind of say, hey, look, in the NHL, going on the road for a long stint is great for the team. But coming back home for a few games is going to be key for this team. So how do these home games match up for the teams that are coming into to Delta Center over the next few games?
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, this is a good stretch to kind of get yourself right. Playing as much as they have on the road. I mean, they were good at the start, but then they go to some of these bigger markets. Montreal is the most unwelcoming market probably in the NHL in terms of the in-game experience. I mean, that is just a temple of hockey with the craziest fans in the NHL, right, where it all began. Same thing with Toronto. They're very similar and Edmonton. But, now you're home for a bit and you can figure things out against teams like Buffalo and New York and San Jose, the Rangers. These are games that you circle as we need to make sure that we're winning these. Now, there are going to be some challenges. You play Vegas a couple of times here coming up, and you got to deal with Montreal again. But it is an opportunity to get right, and hopefully they can take advantage of it. If they could win, I mean, from here on out, after the way that they started the season, if they can just go 50 or 60% of the remainder of their schedule, they'll make the playoffs. It's that simple. So we'll see how it goes, but it's a big opportunity, and I think the guys are ready for it.
Cole Bagley, you can catch his hat trick column that he does right after these games, and tonight, no different. Obviously, the breakdown as soon as the Mammoth, of course, get done with this matchup with the Buffalo Sabres tonight. You're going to get the pregame at 6 o'clock, and the puck drops at 7. And so, Cole, we appreciate it, man. We'll look forward to that, and we'll chat with you again. Thanks for hanging out with us.
All right, thanks.
There you go. Cole Bagley, everybody.
What a clown.
I knew it was you. Oh, I knew it was you. Who? No. You were like waiting. Sometimes when JJ comes in with his face painted in salt white and mountain blue, I
Big
go,
Vegas Golden Knights guy
how
here.
dare you?
Yeah. No, Cole's the best.
I know.
Cole's doing a tremendous
Phenomenal job
covering this team.
Yeah.
Grateful that he's on our team.